Good day, everyone, and welcome to the first WeCrest webinar, the new face-to-face networking during the pandemic. I'm delighted to see such a big turnout today, and I would like to start by giving a warm welcome to our panelists. Ting Shi from Chofen IP in China, Geraldine Rimmer from Michael Buck IP in Australia, Cassidy Laksuptom from IDG in Thailand, and Pascal Mungwango from WeCrest. WeCrest is a Korean company, but Pascal is based in Bangkok. I will introduce our panelists properly later on. First of all, I'll start with just a brief introduction of myself and of WeCrest. My name is Benjamin Morris. I am the CEO of WeCrest. I've been working in IP as a trademark attorney for 17 years, and I founded WeCrest in 2017. Before that, I was a trademark attorney and partner of a firm called PIIP Law in South Korea. And since 2017, I have been working on WeCrest. A few words about WeCrest. WeCrest is a company based in Seoul, Korea, and we make business development tools for IP attorneys. So using our software, IP attorneys can find new clients and new cases. That's sort of the simple way to put it. We are digital marketing experts, and our focus is email marketing. And personally, I believe that the IP industry is currently undergoing massive changes, and this shift is now being accelerated by the pandemic. And I founded WeCrest to be at the cutting edge of this shift. So thank you for joining us today in our webinar. And the purpose of the webinar is mainly twofold. So first of all, we want to explore current trends in networking and business development for IP law firms. And we want to hear from industry leaders how they are continuing to develop their business despite the difficulties created by the pandemic. So without further ado, I would now like to introduce to you today's keynote speaker, my dear friend and colleague, Pascal Mungwango. Like me, Pascal is a native of Berlin. He studied economics and business in Germany before embarking on a career in digital marketing. Currently, he is based in Bangkok, and Pascal is a true digital marketing expert. So I really look forward to seeing hearing what he has to say today. The stations on his resume before WeCrest include the German and European parliaments, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz. Hopefully, after his presentation, we will have time for one or two questions. So please post any questions that you have using the Q&A function of Zoom while Pascal is already speaking. So you don't have to wait until the end. You can, during the presentation, you can ask your questions. And then if we have time, I will select one or two to pose to Pascal. So Pascal, the floor is handed over to you. So please take it away.
Thank you very much, Ben, for this very generous introduction. So without further ado, let's get started. So hi, everyone, and a warm welcome also from my side. My name is Pascal, and I'm a partner and I'm Chief Marketing Officer at WeCrest. And it's my pleasure today to deliver the keynote presentation of today's webinar, the new face-to-face networking during the pandemic. So let's get started. So what can you expect from this short keynote presentation? Probably many of you joined this webinar because you want to learn how to network more effectively or to increase the visibility of your IP firm in a world where international conferences are canceled or significantly downsized. So in this keynote, you will learn why you should invest in high-value relationships rather than spending your time and money in advertising. And of course, also how data and technology can help you identify and engage with high-value clients. In marketing or business development, it is and always has been about targeting the right people. And how do you target the right people? By using data. In the past 100 years, we witnessed a trend in marketing from broad mass advertisement to personalized one-to-one communication. Billboards and newspaper advertisements, which still exist today, are based on demographic data, such as where do people live and commute, or what kind of newspaper is whom reading. TV ads target audiences based on TV channels and programs and time of the day, of course. And then the internet era came, where banner ads and social media are using demographics such as age, gender, location, but also psychographics such as interests or web browsing behavior. So more and more data is being used to target the people at the right time with the right message. Today, we are in the CRM era, where you can target individuals with personalized messages based on first-party data. This is data that you collect yourself. Maybe it's your client list that you have yourself, or second-party data. This can be data from business partners that share the data with you, or it can be third-party data. So this is data from public databases or from IP service providers. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, it means that you can reach the right people with the right message at the right time. And this is how businesses build valuable relationships with their clients in 2022 across many industries. So in a business-to-business context like the IP industry, one-to-one communication is preferred over broad advertising because it leads to better results at much lower cost. So what we're comparing here is the concept of advertising on the left and the concept of account-based marketing, or ABM, on the right. You can think of advertising as fishing with nets, and ABM like fishing with spears. It is much more specific. So let's have a look at the main differences. It all starts with the selection of your target group. In advertising, maybe you select a relevant IP magazine where you believe and hope that the people you want to reach will read your ad or article. And in general, you pay a lot of money for that. Whereas in ABM, or account-based marketing, you select only the top 50 clients worldwide, ranked by value to your firm, using your various data sources that I explained just earlier. So let's have a look at advertising again. In advertising, your ad gets eventually published, and then you literally wait for relevant people to come to your website or to contact you to learn more about your firm. And eventually, they decide to purchase your IP services. However, this is rather a transactional event than a long-term business relationship. Whereas in ABM, or account-based marketing, after you identified the most valuable firms, you engage only with the key decision makers, like equity partners in a firm. And you nurture them by providing your IP expertise. And then after some time, you can expand your professional relationship by exchanging more IP services and maybe even have reciprocity. So everything starts with the selection of high-value clients based on data. Okay, but how do you know who is a high-value client or who is in need of a trademark attorney in your jurisdiction? Well, to answer that question, let's have a look at a brief case study from PIIP law from South Korea in 2017 and 18. Ben Morris, who is the founder and CEO of WeCrest, used to work as a trademark attorney and acting partner at PIIP law back in the days. So Ben Morris wanted to accelerate the growth of his firm by using account-based marketing methods based on data. So he went ahead and bought trademark refusal data from the Korean IP office. So about 7,500 refusal cases were issued in South Korea that year to foreign applicants. So together with his team, Ben then identified the key decision makers of who are responsible for these cases and contacted them via email. He provided initial comments free of charge to show his expertise and demonstrate also reliability. Eventually, Ben built new long-term client relationships and even friendships and generated over $50,000 in just one campaign. Within 5 years, he built a client base worth billings of $700,000 per year. And all that started from scratch. So Ben realized that contacting the right firms at the right time with the right message works really well, and that gets them a lot of new clients. And this was the moment when WeCrest was invented, with a mission to help IP firms building valuable client relationships. So in a nutshell, WeCrest allows IP firms to identify high-value IP firms in every country, or to help colleagues with urgent cases in your jurisdiction. Or it's also great to follow up with colleagues, international colleagues after meetings. And of course, what we're all looking for when it comes to networking is building reciprocal business relationships. And last but not least, you can also identify the trademark holders in your jurisdiction who file trademark applications abroad without using a representative. So let's recap the key takeaways of this short keynote. First of all, you want to engage in high-value relationships and not spend your time and money on high-cost advertising. And this should be done data-driven by using relevant IP data. And you don't want to just shoot in the dark and be broad and unspecific. And last but not least, you came to this webinar probably because you want to learn more, to network more effectively and to grow your law firm. So investing in your firm is what you want to do rather than waiting that things get better. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Pascal, for this very insightful presentation. We're already a little behind schedule, so I would like to suggest that we skip the Q&A for now, and then any questions from the audience. And also I see actually there are not any questions, so that means your presentation was perfect. But if there are any questions for Pascal, please feel free to write them, and then at the during the Q&A section at the end of the webinar, we will have time hopefully to address them. So now, before we go on to the panel discussion, we are going to have a little poll, and that's to make sure that everyone is paying attention, and also to get a little bit of audience participation and feedback. So I will now activate the poll. Bear with me. And you should now, everybody, all the panelists and all the attendees should see a poll on their screen with two statements. So there are two statements here, and for each of those two statements, you should say how strongly you agree or disagree with these statements. So the first statement is, my IP firm, or if you're working for a general practice, my firm's IP department has a proper digital business development or marketing strategy. Do you agree with that? And secondly, I think it's important to have a proper digital business development or marketing strategy. And I will give you a minute to answer. Okay, I can already see that this is quite interesting. The results are quite interesting. Okay, 9 more people, 8 more people. Let's go 20 more seconds. Okay, 8 more people. So, okay, I think that's enough time, and we've got quite a lot of responses. So I will now end the poll and share the results. So hopefully everyone can now see them on their screen. So the first statement, whether you have a digital business development or marketing strategy. So that's good news. So 43% agree somewhat. So I guess you're doing some kind of digital marketing. And a third, even 10 out of 30 people said that they agree strongly. So they definitely have a digital business development or marketing strategy. And on the second question, no surprises here. We're all living in the digital age, and 73% agree very strongly, or agree strongly, that it is important to have a digital business development or marketing strategy. So I guess that also explains the high turnout at this webinar. Excellent. So it's good to see what the audience thinks. I will close this. So I think hopefully now the window has disappeared from your screen. And now let's move on to the panel discussion. So this is divided into two parts. The first part of the discussion, I will introduce now all of the panelists one by one, and I will ask one question to them, and then we'll open it up into a more free-flowing discussion. So I will kick off the panel discussion with by introducing our first panelist. Our first panelist, Geraldine Rimmer. For all-round IP expertise in Australia, look no further than Geraldine Rimmer. Geraldine has more than 20 years of industry experience under her belt. She is a principal of Michael Buck IP, which is one of Australia's top IP firms with offices in Brisbane, where Geraldine is based, and also in Sydney. Geraldine is an award-winning attorney and has been featured in the prestigious WTR 1000 ranking of the world's top trademark attorneys. So Geraldine, thanks a lot for joining us today. You've been working in the IP world for more than 20 years. In your opinion, how important is fostering relationships with associates from other countries? And how do you maintain these relationships? And since today's topic of the webinar is digital business development, maybe you could also tell us a little bit about your firm's digital business development strategy in this regard.
Thank you, Ben, and thank you, everybody, and thank you for that very generous introduction. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you. Yeah, this is a really interesting question, and regardless of what I say, and there's just always room for improvement because the world is ever changing. Every week it's sort of constantly evolving. But certainly when I started working in IP in 2001, the networking landscape was completely different from what it is now. We were still sending faxes. Email hadn't been around for very long. Smartphones didn't even exist. And we were lodging trademark applications in hard copy. It's hard to even imagine it now. And registration certificates were sent to us in the mail. And there was no such thing as Zoom or Teams. However, fostering relationships with international associates was still very important even back then, as it is now. And it's just something I remember very clearly. I started at the firm I was at. I recall senior partners worked and travelled a great deal. It seemed like one or other of them were always overseas on a marketing trip, either at conferences or visiting associates in a planned and strategic way. This was the main way we could market to overseas associates and meet new contacts in the early days of my career. As the years have gone by, in my experience, this travel and meeting associates face-to-face is still the ideal. I think there's no better way to really establish a relationship than meeting a colleague in person. Conferences like Inter are invaluable for this type of marketing, I've found, and making the effort to visit colleagues in their own countries and cities. It does tend to yield positive results. But of course, you have to be practical about how that can be done as well. Over the past few years, the concept of Zoom and Teams meetings has become more prevalent for outreach to associates. And then, of course, with the onset of the pandemic, this has become the main way that we've been marketing overseas. And we have some success with this, as I guess all of us are in the same boat now, and we all tend to appreciate the need to market this way. In terms of maintaining the relationships, I think it's really a matter of keeping in touch with associates, inviting associates to events such as webinars we are presenting, and of course, sending reciprocal work whenever we can. In terms of our firm's digital business development strategy, in regard to international relationships, some of the things that we're involved in are direct random outreach. We do that. If there's just a particular colleague that we're interested in, or we think that they have interesting clients, or they've got a particular reputation that we're interested in, we'll sort of do some unsolicited sort of random outreach. And then of course we do have the more targeted outreach using WeCrest systems. And we find that this kind of targeted data-driven outreach, which is what Pascal was discussing, it's very useful as it helps us to quickly identify firms and attorneys which have had refusals in Australia. That's sort of, it really makes that process much more simple. And Pascal, yeah, has discussed the process involved with that. So really with the outreach, we find there's really two options: either just go bulk and just play the numbers game, or be more considered about it and more data driven and really target firms and matters that you do have a particular interest in, or a particular colleague that you're interested in. So another thing that we do at our firm are newsletters in our digital business development strategies. And then we do content marketing through forums such as Lexology and LinkedIn. They're really the main forums that we tend to use. We believe that writing articles of current relevance or case studies and posting them on forums such as Lexology and LinkedIn has assisted in strengthening relationships and helping us to become a bit more known in our areas of expertise. Lexology in particular, it has a dashboard which shows us who has been reading our articles too, and that's very useful. So we do a bit more personalised marketing as well, showcasing our attorneys as real people with high-level skills, and that's through social media again, particularly LinkedIn is good for that. And then finally, we do marketing of content and marketing of our attorneys through webinars. So look, I hope that this has answered the question posed quite thoroughly, and I'm very happy to answer questions later today or by email if that's of assistance to everyone today. Thanks,
Great.
Ben.
Yeah, great, Geraldine. Thanks a lot for your detailed insights on that. And I also want to just echo what you said, that I agree with you that the face-to-face relationship, the personal relationship is key in our industry. For me, the approach that I always took with marketing and with business development when going to conferences was trying to make friends, not trying to make clients, because you make friends first and then they become your clients, and then it's a much stronger, much more long-lasting relationship. And I think these days the key is to kind of blend the two, like try to use tech in order to do what we used to do, like the personal stuff, to make that even better. Okay, so our next panelist needs no introduction, but I will introduce him anyway. Ting Shi is at the helm of Chofen IP, which is one of the biggest and most successful IP law firms in the world. Anybody in the audience, if you are a WeCrest user, then you will certainly be familiar with the name Chofen IP, because they are usually at the top of the filer rankings in most jurisdictions. Ting Shi himself has been practicing trademark law since 1998, and he has been the managing partner of Chofen since 2010. He's published extensively on Chinese trademark law, and he edited and translated the classification of similar goods and services for registration of marks in the People's Republic of China, an essential document which anyone who has dealt with Chinese trademarks should be familiar with. He's one of China's most recognized trademark attorneys and is regularly featured in rankings such as the WTR 1000, WIPR leaders, and Asia IP experts. So Ting Shi, thanks a lot for joining us today on our panel. Like I said, Chofen is one of the biggest IP firms in China and the Asia Pacific region. I'm sure you won't be able to give away all your secrets, but what is Chofen's success recipe, and what can other firms learn from Chofen's business development strategy? And perhaps could you tell us more about Chofen's digital business development strategy, and if anything has changed during the pandemic? Oh, and maybe unmute yourself, Ting Shi.
Okay, thank you, Ben, for inviting me. I'm so honored and pleased. And Chofen, as the biggest IP firm in China, one of the biggest, I have to be a little bit modest. And we always stress quality services. To be specific, quality services in the IP area, I think, mean responsiveness and being pragmatic. Most companies and associates are eager to get answers to their questions and hate to wait for long. So internally, we require our attorneys to respond to our clients' questions within 24 hours maximum. But in practice, we do faster than that, far faster than that, even during the Chinese holidays. Because we have a big staff, so we can rotate to be on duty on holidays. we can take advantage of that. And also, the internet has made this possible to work from home. So during the Chinese Lunar New Year, I can work from home to answer our clients' emails, and so I don't have to come to office. That and after the holidays, I can work longer days. I can rest longer days. Or I work 1 day on holiday, and then I can have 2 days rest. So we can do a kind of rotation like that. And also, we try to be pragmatic. By pragmatic, that is, we mean to increase our success rate in handling the cases, particularly the conflicting cases like oppositions, cancellations, invalidations, and the enforcement cases. And we study the authorities' cases and the court's cases and understand their principles, understand each judge's or examiner's personal habits, so that we can tailor our arguments and select the good precedents. So our success rate is much higher than the national average. So that is very helpful. And in the theory field, we regularly publish articles, and so we are the #1 article publisher or contributor in China. And also we sponsor or speak at different seminars, webinars in China and outside China. So that make our clients know that Choufen is competent in the IP practice. So that help us make us known to more clients or potential clients. That's also helpful for us to attract some good professionals in the students, even some practitioners in other firms or companies. So that's our recipe. I hope it can be useful to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ting Shi. So just to summarize, your focus is at the core of your success is paying attention to quality. And while that is easier said than done, I think you've been doing a great job at that. And that's the reason why I used to work with you when I was at PIIP. And the person who dealt with all of our trademark cases, Jia Li, if she is still at Choufen, please pass my best regards to her. It was always a pleasure working with her.
Okay, and I have one more. I think I missed your question about anything changed as a result of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest change is that we have more webinars than seminars, and also we do not travel that much. We cannot meet our clients or associates in person, and on the one hand, it saves cost. But on the other hand, we made fewer friends in person. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the change.
Yes. Well, hopefully next year we'll all be able to see each other at Inter again, or some of you might be even going this year. Thanks a lot for your comments, Ting Shi. So now I will introduce our third panelist, Kasiti Laksuktom. Kasiti is a rising star on the Thai IP scene. He's been practicing IP for 6 years. And in that time, he has already compiled an impressive resume. He's a sought-after speaker on Thai and ASEAN IP issues, and his speaking engagements include guest lectures at WIPO, the Thai Department of IP, the Thai Animation and Computer Graphics Association, as well as several universities in Thailand. Kasiti is also a polyglot who speaks not only Thai, but also English, French, and Danish. Kasiti loves to sing, and like myself, he has a soft spot for cats. Kasiti, your firm IDG is a Thailand-based firm, but in recent years, you have been expanding your footprint into other Southeast Asian countries. And you being a young attorney, could you give us your opinion on the importance of online tools and social media to reach new clients in new markets?
Yes, first, I would like to thank you for this opportunity to have been here. And for your kind introduction as well. Well, we all love cats, right? And for your questions, speaking for my firm, we really rely a lot in terms of social media investment. Regardless of that, we are actually a professional IP firm, but we really rely on this type of marketing because we believe that, well, in general, Thai people, Thai clients really spend their time on like internet or online platforms. So that's the part. And well, our firm is quite like we are expanding and thriving to provide our clients like the full IP service or concerning like in Thailand and ASEAN and beyond. And to make that happen, we really need to make our presence to the public since we are a boutique firm, right? So yeah, we need to make our presence and then we need to build that confidence in our expertise in the field of IP. That's where we think that our social media plays part. We promote all our activities like collaborations with the public sectors, seminar events, or any like activities that we do to or any like interesting news or emerging IP news. We show it up and then post it through our social media, like in Facebook fan pages, through our LinkedIn to make it more catchy, more interesting to the people, like especially Thai people who really, well, they are saying that people, like Thai people tend to read only 8 lines of information per day. So we really need something that's been summarized, been chewed already, ready to like digest, something like that. So we do that for the client so that we make awareness of the IP and its importance to their business, to their brand. And then we also we still use like newsletters, email, like CRM models to make engagement with them, sending offers, sending updates. And we are also doing some like rather unconventional method like TikTok videos, like podcast and yeah, YouTube channels. So yeah, I think our firm really rely on the social media, and we think it quite make us quite successful. Like we position ourselves as not the typical conventional IP firm, but we think it's we are more like innovative kind of brand. And since we are more like a younger generations, we understand the needs of and the trends of the consumers in Thailand. So we try to put that on the table for the clients, and it's been successful for us. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Cassidy. And I know from seeing what you guys do on Facebook and LinkedIn that your social media game is really on point. And just to give everyone an idea, we now have 43 participants in this webinar, and I imagine that a big chunk of those are due to the promotion that you guys did at IDG. So thanks a lot for that. We'll talk more about social media in the second part of the panel discussion, because I think it's a really hot topic. But now at this stage, we've got one more poll. This is our second and final poll. So I will go ahead and launch that. And this time we have 3 statements, and you should now see these 3 statements on your screen. And again, as before, please just say how strongly you agree with these 3 statements. I also see there are quite a few questions already, and one question which I will answer right now, an anonymous attendee said that they arrived late and missed the first part of the webinar. Are we going to share the video? Yes, we will. We will send everyone a link to the video sometime next week. So don't worry if you missed something. Okay, so these questions are all about social media. I'm curious to see what everyone thinks of their own social media game and the importance of social media. So we've got 25 responses already, 26. Let's aim for at least 30 out of the 41 who are now in the webinar. I'll give you a few more seconds. If you haven't, yes, one more, good, 28. Let's see, one more, good, 29. And okay, I will close it now. So here are the results. 30 people responded. And the first statement, my IP firm or my firm's IP department is very active on social media. So a little bit of a split decision here, or split opinion. The most votes went to agree strongly. Okay, so that's good news, I guess. And maybe we have a bit of a survivor bias here, that people who are interested in digital business development were more likely to attend this webinar. Number two, I am personally very active on social media for business purposes. So nobody agrees strongly. So maybe it's a trend among IP attorneys to keep business and pleasure separate. That could be the case. But still, most people here, 43%, the majority said they agree somewhat with that. So it is social media's, even they personally do social media for business purposes. And the third statement, I think social media is a waste of time. So I'm very happy to see that 57% disagree strongly, because if you haven't realized that social media is a very powerful business development tool, then I think you are missing out. So the 7%, the two people who said they agree strongly, if you want to comment in the Q&A on why you disagree, I think we'd all be interested to hear. And hopefully we will be able to, or maybe Cassidy will be able to convince you otherwise. Excellent. So that was our second poll. Thanks a lot, everyone, for participating. Now we'll move on to the second part of the panel discussion. And since we are running out of time, I will just blend this together with the Q&A. So it's supposed to be a free-flowing conversation, but to get things going, I will ask questions. I've got some prepared questions, but I'll also take some questions from the audience and direct them to the audience. So let's start with Cassidy, because two people in the poll said that they think that social media is a waste of time. Could you maybe respond to that? Should IP law firms be active on social media, or is it really a waste of time? What do you have to say on that, Cassidy?
Well, I seen the questions as well that, well, some jurisdiction might prohibit some use of advertising on a service like legal services, if I'm not wrong. But well, well, speaking of which, I think social media is actually like a double-edged sword. Like in one part, they can do it part to bring in new leads, to make you like explore new like possible clients, possible way to make connections, make awareness, because well, there's a lot of IP firm in the competition, especially in some of your jurisdictions. So in that part, I think social media can serve you as a marketing arm that in the field that you might never have thought about before. While in comparing to the other edge, it can make it like we have been encountered this before. Some of our clients, we have also served like a bigger client, bigger corporates. They have said that maybe our like marketing arms using social media can be quite casual, like too casual, and it looks like unprofessional sometimes. This is possible as well. So in the industry, we believe, actually speaking for my firm, as a boutique firm, we believe that, well, social media is one thing, but we cannot use it alone. We need to bring in some data analysis. We need to check which is the audience we're aiming for this content to, which is the audience what we're aiming another content to. So that's not only social media on the hand, we need to really bring in other tools. Like we use a lot of data analytics service tools at the back, just to make sure that, well, we didn't make any wrongful content or make any make them feel any uncomfortable with our content, something like that. So yeah, we need to really like bring in a lot of parts, a lot of tools to not just making social media content. So like to answer your questions, I think for me, for like speaking for my firm, we didn't think that it's a waste of time, but still, well, there's a lot of considerations you have to do, such as if your jurisdiction not allowed like you to proceed with any advertisement, then yeah, social media ad content is advertisement no matter what you do, I think. So it has to be done like behind or at the back office, apart from social media, then that is not on the table anymore. But well, if that's not the case, I think, yeah, social media can somewhat, yeah, make you can be able to explore new possible clients for me. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Cassidy. Pascal has raised his hand. Pascal, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, I would just like to highlight a few points that Cassidy has just mentioned, what I really liked. So first of all, it's great that Cassidy has a marketing mix at his firm. So he's not just only relying on social media, but he's also using other means of marketing and digital marketing. And an interesting point that he mentioned was his structure. So he's experimenting with new ways of doing marketing, then he's analyzing the results, and then based off the analysis, he's then optimizing his strategy. And that's exactly also what we do at WeCrest and what we highly recommend, right? So back to the question whether you should invest in social media. Well, if you spend a lot of time on social media, but you don't get a lot of new clients or contacts through social media, well, maybe you should shift some of that time into another marketing method. So always experiment, analyze, and then optimize.
Yes, if I can just add to that, I agree completely. Obviously, Pascal, as you know, we do a lot of this too, and it's all about making data-driven decisions. And what I find surprising sometimes is that these days everybody assumes and understands that in most industries, data is used to target consumers. And everybody knows that Facebook and Google, they use data to target consumers, but in the IP industry, most people still don't do it. So that's something that we're focusing on at WeCrest, and we recommend also our member firms to use data. And going forward, we're also developing more tools that allow this kind of analysis. So that's a very good point. We've got a few questions here from the audience, so I will ask these. I'll pose these to panelists as I see fit. So first of all, Ting Shi. So Ting Shi said that he can answer any question. So there's one question here from an anonymous attendee saying, thanks, please kindly tell something more about how to find a decision maker. So I guess when the question relates to account-based marketing, if you found a big law firm or a corporation and you've identified them as a hot client or a hot potential client, how do you find the right person there, Ting Shi? Oh, and please unmute yourself.
We have different channels. For example, if there's an infringer in the market, and you can check the court database and see some precedent decisions and rulings. And inside the rulings, you can see that the parties concerned, their information, like who signed the power of attorney and who is the represented party. And in that power of attorney or the ruling, you can see the names of the decision makers. Sometimes it's the CEO, but sometimes it's the general counsel or head counsel. And then if you attend some international meetings or are members to the international organizations like INTA, PIIP, etc., and then you can also find the connection information or contact information of the person, and then you can get in touch. Of course, you can also attend many international meetings and make a lot of good friends, and then you can ask your friends for referral, and then that can help to establish a connection with the decision maker. Yeah, that's my idea.
Great, thanks a lot. And clearly that's something that you do very well, Ting Shi. I've got one more question here, which is very interesting. Again, from an anonymous attendee. I'll read it out. As IP professionals, sometimes we feel quite low to send messages to potential clients for their IP matters, as we usually imagine that the clients most likely will not look at the email or even suspect the purpose of this sort of email contact. Are there any good ways to make people believe that the email contacts are in good faith? So I guess the question is here, is email marketing spam? that's if I can just condense it and say it crudely like that. And I think this is the perfect question for Pascal. This is your domain. Do you have anything to say on this?
Right. So yeah, let me break down the question maybe in several parts. So the first part is it compliant with the law, first of all, right? So of course, there are different data protection laws in every country. And now looking at the GDPR regulation in the European Union. So here, any email marketing is GDPR compliant if the email has a legitimate interest. So this means there's a specific reason why you contact that person. For example, because you want to invite them for a meeting or you want to invite them for a webinar, and you know that that person is, of course, also the relevant person to address, right? So that's legitimate interest. And then you have, of course, the opt-out options, right? So every email should have an opt-out instruction. So this can be in the form of an unsubscribe button or in the form of a disclaimer at the button, something like, if you do not wish to receive our emails anymore, please reply with the word unsubscribe, for example, right? And then you can ensure that your emails are GDPR compliant. And then the other part of the question, how do you ensure that the emails are perceived in good faith? Of course, in marketing and also with email, especially in email marketing, you want to be relevant to the people that you contact. So if you provide a value to the people that you contact, then of course they will also perceive you as a business partner with integrity, and of course a business partner that can add value to their business as well. I hope that answers the question.
I think it did. Very good, Pascal. And if I can just add something to that. So first of all, the GDPR is a European regulation. And there are most countries, I think, now have similar regulations, and they all differ a little bit, but they all have a lot of similarities. But I think one big mistake that many attorneys do, and this has probably got to do with the fact that in many countries, advertising is highly regulated for attorneys. But a big mistake that many attorneys make is to assume that email marketing simply is not possible due to GDPR and similar regulations. But if you actually go, and that's what we did, we went into, and that's the stuff that you were quoting just now. If you actually look in the regulations, what are the regulations? You soon see that the GDPR is not as strict as many people think it is. Okay, excellent. Thanks a lot for that. And I have a question here now, which I would like to ask Geraldine, because it's something that you mentioned also in previously when you were talking about your marketing strategy. You said you have a newsletter. The question is, are newsletters effective? Does your firm have a newsletter? Yes, you do. If so, does it help you to acquire new clients? And how do you measure how effective your newsletter is? Geraldine, do you have something to say on that? And could you unmute yourself, please?
Sorry. Yeah, thanks, Ben. Yes, yeah, we do in our firm. We do think that the newsletter is a cost-effective marketing tool. They help keep us top of mind with our existing clients and associates. And they also allow us to provide helpful information, which can often be interesting information as well, which is specific to our jurisdiction. We do 2 different quarterly newsletters. One is locally focused and the other is aimed at our overseas colleagues. So we format and send our newsletters using MailChimp, and that allows us to track open rates and to click rates. So in terms of measurement, these analytics give us a good idea of engagement with the newsletter itself and which articles our readers are actually clicking on. So yeah, and I'd also say that newsletters do showcase our content and demonstrates our attorneys' capabilities as thought leaders, which is important in marketing. In turn, this gives overseas associates and colleagues the confidence to send us work, and we also get referrals from local professionals that way too.
Okay, thanks a lot. We are running out of time, but there is one more question here, which I would like to ask Ting Shi. It's a difficult question, but it was asked 2 times by Kimi Isaac Onana, so I feel compelled to ask it. I'll read it out. Thank you so much for the insightful suggestions and advice. Please, for practitioners who operate in jurisdictions where advertising is prohibited or very regulated, how do such practitioners go about advertising without breaching rules of professional conduct? Before you answer this, Ting Shi, I have to say that, every country will be different. Every jurisdiction has different regulations. So whatever whatever advice is given by our panelists may not apply directly to you, Kimi, in your jurisdiction. But maybe Ting Shi and our other panelists can give some advice about how they deal with advertising regulations for attorneys in their jurisdictions. So Ting Shi, what's the situation like in China?
In China, we have some limitations that is unfair competition law, and we do not have. We are not allowed to say bad things or big mouth our competitors. We can let our clients know that we are good, and we when we do advertisement, we let know the staff number and our leading attorneys information. So, but mostly, I think in some jurisdictions they do not allow attorneys to do advertisement. But if they can have them more exposure to the potential clients, that is useful. For example, they can maybe speak at webinars, speak at seminars, and then demonstrate their professional competence to the potential audience. That's a kind of advertisement. I don't think any jurisdiction will refuse that. And yeah, that's my perspective.
Okay, thank you very much, Ting Shi. I see we've already run out of time, so we said this would be a 55-minute webinar, and it is now 2:56. So I think it's time to wrap it up. Thank you so much to our panelists, Ting Shi, Geraldine, Cassidy, and Pascal, for providing your professional insights on the subject of digital marketing and business development. Thanks also to all of the attendees. So we had a fantastic turnout. 42 participants. It was 43 at one point, so one person didn't like what they were hearing and left. But I think that's a fantastic turnout. We will do more of these webinars in the future. So also to the audience, if you are interested in cooperating with us on a webinar, or if you have any good ideas for topics for webinars, or if you want to be a panelist, please do reach out to us. We're always looking for interested and like-minded people to work with. Like I said before, we will contact everyone by email next week with a link to the recording of the webinar. And in this email, we will also send you the contact information, the email addresses of all our panelists. So if you want to get in touch with any of us and continue the discussion, or ask any questions on IP or business development, please do feel free to reach out to us. After all, the whole purpose of this webinar is networking and business development. So hopefully this webinar also serves to establish some connections for some people here. We will get in touch again by email and by social media when we do our next webinar. So we hope to see you again at one of our future events. Just one quick request: as you leave the webinar, you will see a quick survey. So a window will pop up with 3 simple multiple choice questions, and we'd love to get your feedback on this webinar. It shouldn't take more than a minute to answer those questions. And that will help us to do a better job next time. So with that said, I would like to wish everyone a wonderful day, and I hope to see you at our next event. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.